Okay, The Independent is a daily news site whose website comes out several times a day, 5 days a week. Covers the city of New Haven. It's a professional news site, not for profit. We started in 2005, September. I started it because I was taking a year off from my job at a corporate-owned newsroom. I was writing a book, and I really didn't want to go back. And I found that anybody who was working in a convention newsroom was miserable trying to do a fraction of the job they went into business to do, and that people working on the web were excited even if they weren't getting rich. And I was probably unfairly disdainful of blogs. I didn't like that they didn't do reporting, but I was excited with the way that they were engaging with the readers in new ways and telling stories in new ways, multi-platform stories, whether sometimes video, sometimes linking, mapping, text. So I thought, could you do that with news reporting? I didn't realize that some people in San Diego were thinking the exact same thing at the time. And that we even came up with the exact same way to fund it, which was the NPR model, not-for-profit, through grants and subscriptions and sponsorships. So I thought I'd try it. I didn't think I'd be a major news source in town. I thought I'd do some stories. Raised $80,000 for startup funding. I found out that people were hungry for this in New Haven. Pretty soon we were doing news reporting. We were hearing from people of all kinds of walks of life that never happened from my reporting. Debating in a way they never do in New Haven. A kid gets shot in a poor neighborhood. His relatives, as well as people who never go in that neighborhood, as well as people who are making laws, are talking to each other. So I was able to raise more money than I thought. I didn't even know if I'd be around for long. And now we have a staff, and we do 12 to 20 posts a day, and it's fun. We're not out to replace existing media. There's been so much less reporting in New Haven as in other cities. Just in the last bunch of years, when I started out, as I told you earlier, there were 5 radio newsrooms, 2 daily papers. Now there's 1 daily paper that has a third of its previous staff, no radio newsrooms. Stuff's not getting covered. Or if it's getting covered, it's being covered one way when there needs to be multiple ways of covering it. So even though we're competitive like any other reporters, we love to break stories and we love to be first, what we're really trying to do is add to the landscape. Give a new perspective on stuff that's being covered and cover stories that aren't being covered, especially locally in the city. We tell stories in a different way, and we have the readers involved in a different way. I'll give you examples. Our readers are very interested, based on our news reporting, in talking about what rules there are for riding bikes on the street. So you have sidewalks on the street. I'm riding my bike. Some woman starts yelling at me to get on the sidewalk, which is actually illegal. So I pulled out my video camera, and I start having her swearing at me, get on the fucking sidewalk. And it's this big, and then I put it up there as kind of a raw video. We're reporting about it, linking to our previous stories where the issue was raised. 60 or 70 people then come on, and because they watched the video, they saw it in a different way. They analyzed the journalism, they analyzed what she was saying, but then people were citing, were linking to state regulations, city regulations, confusion over that. I called up the cops as a reporter, what kind of words getting out. That was a way to talk about a news-driven issue on the web that's different. Another example, I wrote about some news article about politics, and I think we do bring a unique perspective to politics only because there's an institutional knowledge covered 30 years. So I was writing about city politics. Some businessman writes in the comment section, I'm going to run for mayor, and he wanted to be my campaign manager. And he has enough money, he's well enough to know that it was legit. So all of a sudden the other media covers he's running for mayor. Then I interview him about the city, and it turns out in answer to some questions, he really didn't know about some of the poorer parts of town. So people write in, how can you run for mayor when you haven't even been to Dixville and Wallville? And he writes in the comment section, you're right, my campaign's off. And that sort of happened there.
Sure.
Our opinions are less important. What's important is just our ability to go cover stuff that wasn't getting covered, or covered in different ways, and then the readers take it the next step.
Well, I've been with The Independent for 3 years. I'm the managing editor. And I came to it, I guess, by route of a project up in Middletown. My first job as a reporter was the lead reporter covering the town of Middletown for the Middletown Press. And some folks up there were actually, pretty disheartened at how that paper had dwindled over the years. It was this family paper, and it got bought out, and now it's owned by the JRC that just filed for bankruptcy. So at the time, there was day one of that job, people were already grumbling about, oh, there's nothing in your paper but obituaries. So people there were really excited about the new media, starting up a new website. And I had worked for Paul before as an intern at the New Haven Advocate. So I knew him, and I said, oh, why don't we talk about starting a site up there? And then he said, well, I have a job for you down here, and I was still living in New Haven, so I jumped at that. I mean, I love New Haven, it's a great news town. So yeah, I guess I had a stint as a traditional news reporter, learned how to cover courts and cops and sort of everything, and then jumped to this new media vehicle. I cover a lot of things. Half of my job, well, most of my job, I guess, is reporting. So I cover City Hall, I go to the aldermanic meetings, cover political contests, and I also do a lot of crime. So shooting scenes, just kind of running around. I have a bike and a camera that I bring everywhere, and that's how we basically get around town. And then the other part of my job is I do story assignments, look at public meetings, see what's going on, talk to people, and divvy out the assignments. So we only have, our office, I think you saw it, is just Paul and I, 2 desks. So the rest of our reporters we communicate to by email. So I'll do a lot of emailing and calling, trying to make sure everything's covered. And then, I do the crime blotter, and I edit some stories from time to time. It's lively, it's fun, it's interactive. I mean, I think I had no idea what value the interactive component would have when we started. Okay, people are going to comment on my stories. But then it became, our story is the beginning of a conversation, and then there's this whole rest of the conversation that goes on. And that, for me, has just been the most fun part of our site. And we had a guy randomly announce his candidacy for mayor in the comment section of our website. And then, he was proceeded to be interviewed by other commenters in the comment section. And then he later decided, he didn't want to run, so he withdrew his candidacy in the comment section of another article. So it's spontaneous, it's fun, and we've really cultivated this community of commenters, people who really care about the town, who are plugged in on all the issues.
Well, they're a strong competitor in terms of daily stories. I mean, it definitely we're monitoring them every day, looking to see what they're doing all day. They're aggressive, and we're trying to be just as aggressive in getting stuff up on the web as quickly as we can. I think we try to be careful not to come at stories from a perspective, and I think some of their stuff comes at stories from a particular perspective, and I think we work very hard not to do that.
I relearned how important news is. That at print papers, we became cubicle pundits almost. Once in a while you go out to see something in person, but you're calling people, you're looking stuff up on the internet, which isn't bad to do, but you're not actually, just something that happens in news. Woman is taken dead on the fucking sidewalk. That was some news only because of what's been happening in town.
Yeah.
Or one day I was in a parking lot with a cop talking about something else, and this girl's windshield gets smashed, and the mother freaks out because she didn't have insurance yet. Turns out she told the girl not to hang out with some kids she had a feud with in high school as the mother got her to college. And that actually was news. It was there because you were there. That's not what we were doing in print. We showed it partly with video, partly with background about community policing, how the cops were. But it became this discussion about what was the mother facing, what a girl's faced at the high school, what kind of journalism should you do, are you invading their privacy. That in print, you don't have that connection with readers, and you don't have that sense of you just have to show up and just do shoe-level reporting, or just be out of an office and show what happens, and that what happens in the proper context is news. So I think it's been a lesson for me about the importance of immediacy, the importance of being out, seeing things, and engaging with people even more, and about focus on what happens from day to day, never losing sight of context. You don't use your brain less. You don't think of the big picture less, but you are thinking more immediately. And you're also thinking differently about how to tell stories in different formats.